Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
Hey, I'm Jessica Faust.
We are literary agents that have taken our popular blog to YouTube to discuss all things publishing, and we've got a listicle. We've got a list.
A listicle.
Got a
I
listicle.
like it.
We are giving you the top 10 reasons your query letter did not sell your book to agents, editors, whoever you're pitching.
And eventually to readers.
Yeah. Oh, good one. Good one.
It's that kind of day. Full of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just dive in. We got a list of 10 things. And the first one is your query. What? Your query was too long and doesn't contain the right information.
Yeah, I just had a query today, in fact, that went on and on and on and on. And I think it was 4 or 5 paragraphs before the author even attempted to get to the book part. And then it was like 6 or 8 paragraphs about the book. And I
check out.
I check out. I rejected it and advised the author to look at how to write a query because I don't have the time or any. Can you imagine walking into the bookstore and pulling a book with a really pretty cover off the shelf and having to fold back 3 pages of the cover
Like
flap just to figure out?
Well, that's a great way to put it, right? Because think that, you're sitting down to write your query. Imagine you only have 2 flaps on a hardcover dust jacket. That's the only amount of space you have.
Yeah.
Now, remember that the back flap is usually, there are some that go a little longer and it continues on back flap, but is usually about the author. So you really only have your first flap.
Yeah, the first one, that's it.
You don't have a ton of space, and the query is the same way. Pretending like you have all of the space because it's in an email.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we only put that little bit on a book, and it's because it sells books.
Yeah, that's what you're doing with your query. You're selling your book.
Punchy, persuasive, pick me up. That's what your query has to be. If it's too long, people are going to check out.
Yep.
I am people. I am
definitely people.
The flip side of that, and I get so many of these, especially with picture books, is that your query is too short and doesn't contain the right information. I have gotten 1 or 2 sentence queries before.
Yeah.
Not nearly enough to go off of. I've gotten query letters that are introduction, bio, and no book. So
yeah, or do you get the queries that say, I've attached the pages, please enjoy? Yeah. And I'm like, well, can you imagine walking into a bookstore and seeing this cover and nowhere at all do you get to figure out what the book is? And now they're expecting you, I'm supposed to read the book to figure out what this book is about?
And my suspicion with those is always that they think they're like tricking us into reading the book because we don't actually blah, blah, blah. But the truth, that's always my suspicion.
That's so funny. You're so suspicious because I just think, oh, nobody told this person how to write a query.
Oh yeah, I'm way more suspicious than. But again, like that was a great example because we need to have something about the book to make us crack it open. It's the same when we're reading on a screen and we're reading a manuscript. You have to sell the book. You can't do that in 1 sentence. You can't do that in 5,000 sentences.
Yeah, if the bookstore is not sort of a good analogy, a comparison for you, think of, Amazon. Can you imagine if you went to Amazon to shop for a book and all it had was the look inside feature and you had to hit look inside on every book you were considering?
Never buy a book. You would never buy a book because by the time you finish reading the sample of one book and decided, I don't even want to buy that, you'd be pissed off and you wouldn't go look at the next one.
But also keep in mind, we don't even have a cover to go off of. Right. At least at the bookstore, I have definitely bought books off. Yeah, but I bought books off pretty covers. I mean, but I have read the flap, but when I'm in my query inbox, I don't even have a pretty cover. And don't start sending me covers. No. Don't start mocking up covers. That is not going to help you.
No. Okay. This next one is my pet peeve. You're focused only on themes, not on character and plot and what's actually happening in the book. We get it so many times. My least favorite sentence ever is that a book is about what it means to be intrinsically human. I don't know what that means. Or like it's a tour de force. You know how many like book reviewers say that about books and they slap it on the cover? I don't know what that means. Don't put that in a query letter. Those are my 2 least favorite sentences.
Yeah, I don't, if you are thinking this book has themes of, stop yourself right there. Nobody cares. People don't read books for themes.
The truth is that like a good pitch is going to convey those anyway, right? Like if you're really pitching what's happening in the book, the action of the book should somehow convey the theme that you're trying to get across anyway.
And a good book has it. You know, I have talked a bit about chemistry lessons, which everybody by now knows I loved. And that book had a ton of themes in it, ton of themes. There is no way if I said to you all right now, you need to read chemistry lessons that had themes of this and this and this, you'd be like, I don't care. What's it about?
What's it about?
What's it about?
So get to the meat of the book. Okay, the next reason we have is that you do not accurately or at all label your genre. I think this, for two reasons, doesn't sell your book. If you don't have a good sense of your genre, you might not be querying the right people. That's number one. The second reason is if you don't accurately label your genre, I'm generally concerned you might not understand the genre. And then you're pitching a book into a genre that either is not that genre. How many times can I say genre? Take a shot every single time. It's either not that genre.
Count it up.
Right. Or not accurate representation of that genre, or not contributing anything. So.
Well, the other thing with the genre is I see so many authors wasting their own time. So I don't represent anything in the children's market, YA, middle grade. I don't represent any of it. And the number of queries I get where people are labeling something mystery, because I do represent mystery, but then when I read the query, it's like, but this is a YA, or this is science fiction fantasy, which is also not mine, but for some reason you felt you had to do anything possible to get this query in front of me. There's a reasons I have genres. That's what I read. That's what I represent. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's what I like. But there are a lot of things I like to read that I don't represent because this is also my skill set as an agent, these genres that I represent. The real pet peeve about genre for me is the every genre. Your book is not every genre. It is not, it would not fit in shelves alongside mystery, romance, and fantasy. It will not. Those genres are very specific and have very specific styles. You can't put one book in all those spaces. Ooh, that was a little
people look at genre sometimes as like an artistic, creative tag, but it's really not. It is a business marketing tag.
Marketing.
Where is it going to be on the shelves? And I think if you can make that switch in thinking in your brain, you'll approach it and be a lot more strategic about what you call your book.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if somebody decided that blackout cake was their best-selling bakery item. So they were just going to name, this is an angel food blackout cake. This is an apple pie blackout cake. Like, it just doesn't work unless it's a, what's the pie cake thing? Like the turducken, but the dessert version. It's a terrible idea. But anyway,
sounds awful. I'm not going to lie. So.
But, you know, I'm not an apple pie eater. I would eat a blackout cake. But labeling your apple pie a blackout cake or a blackout cake plus apple pie is not going to get me to buy it. I tried really hard.
So hard.
Moving on.
Anyway, your word count isn't right for the genre or shows a lack of knowledge about, let me stop laughing. Your word count isn't right for the genre or shows a lack of knowledge about the genre, perhaps, or a lack of preparedness. That was long-winded.
Yeah, you threw every word in that one. I hope that's not your query.
Yeah, I did. So your word count isn't right, is what that.
This one's gonna piss people off because now we're gonna get a lot of rants. The people who've been ranting about word count in comments and other videos are all coming back.
Especially because we're laughing while we're doing it. Like how good we have a good time.
We have no respect for word count.
Yeah. But think about it. If you pitch me a 40,000 word picture book, what am I doing with that? Nothing. If you pitch me 125,000 word middle grade, I can't do nothing with that. A 30,000 word YA, adult sci-fi fantasy, it doesn't work. That's not what your readers will expect.
And that's what it's about more than anything. It's reader expectations and it's your knowledge of the market. I also believe it says a lot about your ability to edit and write. you know, if you're writing a 250,000 debut, whatever, I'm going to immediately question your ability to edit. And you're going to say to me, well, so and so. Okay, fine. Pitch your book.
But that also tells me something, right? It tells me that you're kind of not willing to work within the parameters of the
Yeah.
industry, because word count isn't just about how many words your book is. It's also about printing and, costs and what we can charge for a book. So all of that goes into word count. So it isn't just like my book needs an extra 100,000
I
words.
mean, you're going to make less money because printing costs are higher. Yeah, word count does matter. There is a range. You know, there's always a range in word count. It doesn't have to be exact, of course, but I think being able to understand and hit word count also shows your willingness to approach this like a business.
Yeah.
As a professional who says, okay, well, I wrote a 225,000 word book, but now I realize I really need to edit it because that's what the industry requires.
Full stop.
But you know what? When you got your 10th book in, you do whatever you want. If you're successful enough, freedom. You've got much more freedom then.
You knew that question was going to come, didn't you?
Yeah, that'll come. Yeah. Harry Potter. We'll bring up Harry Potter.
Stephen King. How can Stephen King write it? That's like 9,000 pages. No, I get it. I definitely get it.
David Foster Wallace. That name will be popped in the comments.
Just a book I will never read. Never read.
Now we're gonna get
Oh my god, David Foster Wallace stands. You just want to cut me. Anyway.
We're on a roll today.
This video is a mess. Our next reason, your query doesn't showcase your voice or convey the tone of your story, which I think is a really important one. If you're writing a super dark book and I get like, I'm laughing throughout or it's super light, I mean, it's not that it doesn't sell your book necessarily, but well, I guess it kind of does, because I'm thinking that's how the book is going to be. And if we're talking about like murder and stuff and you're making me laugh and that's not the kind of book it is, it's weird. It's off-putting. It doesn't quite add up.
Yeah, your book, your tone of your query has to match the tone of your book.
Yeah.
But also voice can sell your query. I have definitely been on the fence about the plot or the description in a query, but that voice has sold me.
Yeah.
So, because at the end of the day, when we are reading books, all of us as readers, we connect to the author's voice. We connect to their style of writing.
Even if you don't know it.
Yeah, totally. And people connect differently to different voices too, right? Yeah. So if you can really make that come out in the query, and I feel immediately you lose yourself. It's very bizarre, but when you find a beautifully written query, you know that book is going to be beautifully written. You find yourself losing yourself in your query. You almost forget you're reading a query because you've just been taken over by how beautiful that writing is.
Yeah, good voice makes you want to run to the pages.
100%. Yep.
The next reason is maybe your query letter doesn't sell you. This happens a lot when I think I messed up.
This is actually a really big deal in nonfiction, because in nonfiction, thanks. Anything I can help you with. Nonfiction is really about the author and the author's platform. And I don't care what you're writing in nonfiction, if you're writing prescriptive, if you're writing memoir, narrative, it's so much about you. And I see this problem a lot with nonfiction, where I get a great blurb about the book like I would in fiction, but the author hasn't put in the energy to tell me what their platform is, the workshops they're doing, their social media, the other media outlets they're working in or writing in. That's got to be right there, because that, when it's coming to nonfiction, is the first thing I'm looking at.
Battle.
Yeah. And I think fiction authors, we've talked about the bio and not to get stressed about the bio, but if you have writing credentials, that can turn the tide in a query. So you've got to include them.
I was just going to say, I think for fiction, where I think the difference is for me is that nonfiction is part of selling the book. But I think in fiction, it's part of selling that you're taking it seriously. And I think your bio can really convey that. Your bio can convey that I'm a part of this, this organization, or, I'm doing this, or I'm willing to do that. Like all of that in your bio is something that for me shows that you would take this seriously.
And that it might show me you know how to edit.
Yeah.
That you understand what you'd be up against, that, you know, like, yeah, all of those things.
Right. So our next reason is the query is rude. Sometimes, and I think this goes off of this the reason why I switched the order, I saw your face, is because I think it does dovetail off of your query
Yeah.
letter doesn't sell you. But we get a lot of rude queries, a lot.
It's so
There's not a
weird. It's so
it's
funny,
so
but
weird. There's not a day I sit down to read queries where I don't at least have one or two really rude ones. And sometimes it's just like the super cynical, jaded, like you're not even reading this and your assistant is reading this. I wish my
yeah,
assistant was reading it, but I don't
yeah.
have one. So I'm
Yeah,
reading
if
it.
you're not gonna bother reading this, that's fine. Or my other favorite is, since every other book on the market is garbage, I decided to write one
Yeah.
myself.
Immediately it tells me it's not the kind of person I want to work with.
Yeah, I
Immediately.
don't want to deal with that kind of attitude and
No.
negativity all the time. I mean, life is short, this business is difficult. I want to work with people who want to be here and are positive and are going to put the effort in. And yes, there's some days going to have bad days, but we can work through it because overall you're excited to be here.
Wow,
Not,
that
not,
was really well put.
oh, thank you.
Reason number 9, you're pitching the wrong agent. They may not even work in your genre. They might not be open to the kind of thing or theme that's in your book. All of that just makes them not the right fit, and you haven't done your research.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yep. Or you're reaching.
Yeah,
You've hit your 50 agents, you're refusing to give up. And even though there's nobody left, you're just going to keep querying randomly now, because
true.
that's easier than accepting that you have to get down to your next book. It's time for your next book.
Precisely. And our number one reason, the number one reason why your query letter is not selling the book is because it's not the query letter at all. It's the book. The book is not standing out.
This is the
Which,
one that everybody hates hearing the
oh,
most.
absolutely. Which I was going to just say, it's the hardest to recognize. It's the hardest to come to terms with. I think most people will always default to blaming the query letter because it's the easy thing to blame, right? It's that first foot in the door. But sometimes, when you get that 50 rejections, you have to step back and think the book wasn't there. No matter how many times I rewrote the query, no matter what I did, no matter how I presented it, got the genre right, queried the right people, there's a reason why they didn't go for it. And that's because it's just not there.
Yeah, I have to say, if I'm looking at 500 queries a month, let's say, I think I'm being generous, but I think 400 or more actually follow all the rules and are good queries.
Yeah.
They are. There's all these 10 reasons your query didn't sell your book. The first 9, I don't even think those are 10% of the queries I receive. So you other 90%, you know that you've written a good query. The problem is the book. When I am reading your blurb, it doesn't sound different enough. It doesn't sound like something I want to
Can I
read.
interject quickly just to say that individually? So for me,
yeah,
for
right.
another agent, it could do it. So when we're reading that query, it's the book for me.
Yeah, and that's 100%. This is subjective. I mean,
Yeah.
how many notice offers of representation do we get at BookEnds every week that some other agent has made an offer, they're excited about it, they want to work on the book, and we decide to pass?
Exactly.
A lot, probably more. We probably pass on more in those situations than we offer on.
Sure. We get at least like 15 to 20 a month.
Yeah. Oh, at least. Yeah. And we maybe offer on maybe 5.
5, yeah.
So, but somebody else offered on the other 15 or 20.
Yeah.
So that's
And
huge.
those are just the ones that we're getting, right? Like our genres or our age groups, or sometimes just our network of reach, because there are authors who might not even know who we are and are querying, and we don't even get on their list, or we had passed on beforehand. So there are so many agents out there. I just wanted to clarify that 90% who were doing everything right, it's not because your book is not going to ever make it. It's just that for us, when we pass on it, it was the book. It didn't stand out to us.
But if you get to the point where those 50 agents have rejected you and it's time to put away the book, what I would consider is not, I've written a bad book, because there's nobody saying you've written a bad book. It's that I've written a book that doesn't stand out in what is an incredibly competitive market. And what I want to stress is not every book we put on submission sells, which means that agents are being very particular, but also so are editors, even more so. So what I would think about if you're trying to overanalyze this, first of all, I'd say don't analyze this too closely. But if you are, read your query as if you can separate yourself from the book and think, well, does this book sound different enough from all the other books in that genre on the bookshelf enough that somebody's going to nab it? And a lot of times I think we get an idea and we write a great book, but we forget that a great book isn't enough. It also has to be able to sell and market and grab a reader. And that's the first thing it has to do.
Just submitted a book, and then like 3 months into the submission, book came out almost to a T what this book was, New York Times bestseller.
Oh, that's
so it happens. Like there are, like it's got to stand out. Things have to stand out.
It does.
So
those are 10 reasons.
Those are our 10 reasons. We're going to turn the comments off on this video. Don't fight. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you back here next time.
Bye.